All right, so how to pay yourself, sponsored by yours truly. This is my first PowerPoint I ever made, so let's get right into it. How to pay yourself. Okay, so contrary to popular belief, guess what? Not everything in this world has to be about money. You got so many people trying to tell people how to invest, how to grow their business, telling people that they should grow their business. Trying to tell people that buying brand new cars is a bad idea. Trying to telling people what to do with their finances. And guess what? It's your own life. You can do as you want with whoever you want, doing whatever you want. If you want a brand new car, guess what? And that makes you happy, go buy a brand new car. If you want to start a business and work it however you want to, and as long as it serves you and it fulfills you, dude, do your thing. Okay. Because what you'll find, the theme of this slideshow here is this is all dependent on who you are and what you want, not dependent on what I'm doing or what some multi-millionaire, billionaire who's ever out there who's putting out advice on YouTube and whatever they're doing. So just try to take all the noise that we hear off social media and TikTok and Instagram about finances and what you should do with those finances. Dave Ramsey, Grant Cardone, all these huge people, and take it with a grain of salt. This is your life and this is your world, man. And what you choose to do with it is completely up to you. So with that being said, let's get further into this. So just a little bit about me. Obviously, you guys know me. 7 years in the business. We did $1 million last year. This is some of our team here. We do exterior cleaning and pressure washing. We do Christmas lights, and we also do kitchen hood vent cleaning. A lot of you guys have been following me for a long time. You guys see all my content on YouTube and whatnot. If you guys are not already a part of my Service Business Pros School group community, that'll be the first link in the description. This video is going to be posted in that community, as well as about 80 other videos, all associated with the pressure washing business, how to grow it, how to scale it, how to get customers, and how to ultimately scale to a six-figure business. So that's going to be the first link in the description. But without further ado, let's keep on going. This is my owner operator stage, right? And so obviously, I've seen it all in this business. Okay. I've been in this position where I'm managing and I'm on the back end, I'm doing bids and I'm kind of sitting at home, working on the business. Right. And then I've also been in this stage where I've been an owner operator, right? You can see me here. This was about 2-3 years ago. I'm still filming my YouTube content, still taking you guys in the trenches. The video on the right, I think that was 2023 or so. The one on the left I think that was 2021. You can see that was my first truck ever, home built equipment. Those are my reels, my hose reels, and all my old school ladders hooked up on the top. And I've been in the owner operator stage, man. And I've done it. So just want to preface this video by saying that I've done most of the things that can be done in this home service business. Okay. Look, I said it in the beginning. I'm going to preface this whole video by talk to a CPA. Okay. Straight up, talk to a CPA. I'm not an expert on taxes. Okay. You need to get your tax situation straight. You might owe, I'm not sure if you owe back taxes or maybe you're ahead on taxes or maybe you're all caught up with the IRS. Look, I've gotten myself into tax problems. My first year in the business, I wasn't keeping up with things properly. I made some mistakes and I ended up with an $11,000 tax bill at the end of the year that I did not anticipate. And so that just took me a second to get straight with the IRS, right? So look, get with the CPA. That's a tax professional. Tell them what you're wanting to do and what you're doing, and they will help guide you with the expenses and especially the write-offs. They will help set you up as far as your business bank accounts, your business checking accounts. All right, you guys ready to get started? Let's get right into it. Okay, so look, the first thing you got to ask when it comes to, you're paying yourself is what are your goals, right? Do you want to make money fast? Do you want to build a business that will be here 5 to 10 years from now? Or are you just looking for, weekend cash? Are you just, weekend warrior? You're just are you doing this as a side hustle? What are we doing here, right? There's so many things you can do. People are cutting lawns on the weekends. They're pressure washing driveways after work or before work. Maybe they work nights and they do side hustles during the day. Whatever it is, what are your goals here? You want to build a lasting business. You want to build a family business. You want to work on a business and not in a business. You want to get away from maybe you just want to look. A lot of people that I talk to, look, they just want to, if they can just, they'll tell me, Austin, if I can just make what I'm currently making at my full-time job working for myself, I'll be happy. That's great, right? So the point of this slide is like, what are your goals? Have you asked yourself that yet? Like, what are you trying to do here? What's your 3 to 5 year plan? What do you want? Um, and then whatever that is, lock in on what you want. Your goals will determine your direction. Okay. This is just option one. As far as I look, there's so many different ways to pay yourself out here, but I'm going to outline two in this video today. Option one, I call this my rogue warrior, owner operator. This is me when I first got started. I was a lone wolf rogue warrior. When I first started this, it was a side hustle for me. And maybe this is what you're kind of thinking too. Maybe you're saving up for something. You're saving up for a wedding, a car, paying off debt, whatever that is. You're a rogue warrior, owner operator, right? Maybe you just, like I said in the beginning, you want a high paying job. You want to just replace what you're currently making at your current job. And hell, even make more than that, just working for yourself, right? There's a lot of people that do that. Maybe you don't want to build like this big business or anything. You just want to work, right? You want a high paying job doing something that fulfills you, that's awesome to do, something that you like doing, obviously. You don't want to do it. You don't want to build a big business. That's not something that maybe interests you. And guess what? If you end up working up to that point in the future, that's okay. Maybe that's something that you want, but you have to obviously start somewhere, right? Or maybe look, you're just unclear on what you want to do. You just know you want to make money. Okay. This is rogue warrior owner operator stage. Okay. So how would I pay myself in this stage? As little as possible. You'll find that another theme of this slideshow here is paying yourself as little as possible is always the way to go, right? Why would you pay yourself more than what you want? A lot of this money that is going to come into this business, you're going to probably want to use as fuel to get your next job, right? Marketing. Of course, you'll see in this video that I'm going to show you guys ways to pay yourself more if that's what your goal is. If you just want to suck as much money out of this little side hustle or little side business as you want, that's great. You can do that. And I'm going to show you how right here. So look, this is just an example. Okay. Look, first, what we need to do is define what the definition between gross profit and net profit is, right? Your gross profit is going to be your gross revenue minus your cost of goods sold, right? And then after you get your gross profit, you're going to figure out your net profit by factoring in all your other expenses right here. So this is an example that I threw up here. An owner operator, whether it's your first month, your second month, your third month, whatever it is, you can just use your last month, for example. What did you make last month? Let's say you started 3 months ago. Your first money making month was last month, and you're watching this video and you're asking yourself the question, how do I pay myself? Well, this is a scenario for you. Operator earns $2,000 in his first month. I use that as just a nice little average number, $2,000, right? Your cost of goods are your chemical and gas, or your labor, which you guys are probably not going to be there yet. Most of you guys are doing this yourself for your first couple of months, or even a couple of years from now, whatever your goals are, right? Your cost of goods are the things that took to complete that job. You couldn't complete that job without the chemicals. You couldn't complete the job without the gas. Right. And then obviously in the future, you couldn't complete that job without the labor associated. Right. But when you're first getting started, on a $2,000 a month, maybe your cost of goods, they're very, very low. Nice average number, $100, filling up a 5-gallon gas tank, power washer, maybe some gas in your truck. It could be more, but it's just whole number is $100. Okay. That's your gross profit right there. $1,900 is your gross profit. Additional expenses. Okay. So let's figure out our net on this. Parts, pieces. Okay. That's all your little equipment pieces that you needed to buy, things that might have broke down. Obviously your insurance, truck insurance, general liability insurance, any maintenance that you might have done that month, and then taxes. Okay. Again, another, and when you're first getting started, guys, this number is going to be very, very low. Really low, in comparison to being obviously scaled out, but $500, that's parts, pieces, general liability insurance, maintenance, right? That's your expenses, $500. So $1,400 is what your number after your average expenses. And so you're left with $1,400, right? And then you have to figure in taxes. Okay. I'm using, rough averages here. Obviously talk to a CPA, figure out what that number is. If you're going to be, a sole proprietor, there's self-employment There is self-employment tax in there. Okay, you have to talk to a CPA. You'll find I'll say that very often in this video. But I think a good rule of thumb is just, hey, set aside 25% to taxes. Always stay ahead of the tax people. You guys gotta know when you guys are in, you guys are in business, you guys have to submit quarterly taxes. Your quarterly estimates to the IRS. That's something that when you're a W-2 employee, you don't have to do, right? Because the government withholds from you, right? That they don't trust you with your money. That's why if you're a W-2 employee, you get withheld from, and then you deal with it at the end of the year. When you're a self-employed, business owner, it's the other way around. They want you have to pay them on a monthly or quarterly basis. Anyway, CPA for that. So you're left with $1,050 as your net profit. Now, congratulations. You just earned $1,050 out of $2,000. Not really, right? Not really. Let me show you. What do I do with $1,050? Now, obviously, that's your net profit. If you guys want to keep the whole thing, and because you're a weekend warrior, then there you go. That's money that you earned in a month. That's $250 you earned a week. That's awesome. Extra spare change right there. But look, it just comes down to what your goals are. What's your financial situation like currently? Do you need this money? That's the question you want to ask. And again, first, you got to define what your goals are. If you're building a business, because you want to build a family business, you need to hold on to a main source of income, a main job for as long as you can before you really start going, before you start relying on this business financially. So look, ask yourself, do you need this money? If the answer is no, then we can probably keep a lot of this in our business checking account, right? Or maybe you just need the money and this is, you did this for a reason and that's because you needed money quickly. Then let's get right into these scenarios, right? So some people, they'll take in 50-50 from that. They're left with 1,050. They're going to move 525 to their personal checking, and they'll keep 525 in the business checking. You're always going to want to keep something in the business checking account. You don't want to be in a situation where a pressure washer goes out, a pump goes out, your mower goes out. You need money and you don't have access to it because you moved it to your personal checking and you spent it. Or you don't want to be in a situation either where you're taking care of business expenses with your personal checking account. That creates a tax nightmare. You always want to keep it separate. Don't live out of your business checking account. Create two checking accounts and then pay yourself personally, depending on what your goals are, right? So maybe you're doing 50-50, or hey, look, you want to keep more money? Look, 75-25, 85-25. If you're doing 75%, you're paying yourself, then look, you're going to pay yourself $787 to your personal checking account, right? And you keep 262 in there. Look, and I always say, look, make sure you have something in your account. Don't roll into the next month having paid yourself everything out of the net profit and you have nothing in your account. What are you going to use for your marketing expenses? That's, and look, some guys would say, oh, I'll just pull from my personal checking. I'm not a CPA, guys. I'm not going to, talk to a damn CPA. But they are going to tell you that you should not pay for that personally. You got to use your business account because at the end of the year, they're going to look at all your expenses. And if everything's coming out of your business account is associated with those expenses, your taxes are going to be a lot cleaner. And a CPA is probably not going to shoot you in the head at the end of the year when they're dealing with all this. And you want to make sure you have some stuff in there for obvious emergencies, things that go down, and marketing plans and marketing purchases. Option two, right? Option one was you're a weekend rogue warrior, owner operator. You're doing your thing. Option two is you're a builder, right? You want to build a family business, maybe. You want to work on the business instead of in the business. Eventually, I understand when you're first getting started, you're going to be working in the business a lot. Unless you guys just have piles of money and you can truly be off the truck from the get-go, then, there you go. But, when you're first getting started, you're going to be, a weekend rogue warrior. But again, you can still pay yourself as a builder. If you're out there working the jobs and you're working in the business, you can still pay yourself as a builder. Okay. We're going to get into that in a second. Or maybe, look, you just want to build a sellable asset from the get-go. You want to build a sellable asset. Okay. What can I do from the get-go to give me the best chances of getting to this point, right? Well, let's get into it. So how should I pay myself? As little as possible. Again, that's the theme. Look, as little as possible. Why would we want to suck as much money out of the business as possible? Now, again, your goals, you need the money for something, you're saving up for something, you're paying off something, some medical bills, you need money, that's different, right? But if we have some financial cushion in place, and I teach that. That's what I teach in my Service Business Pros group, is having a financial cushion is just going to make everything better. Give yourself a more clear way of thinking in making more proper decisions that are not based solely on emotion, and more so strategic decisions in your business as far as expenses and where you should deploy money. But yeah, as little as possible, man. We're trying to grow a business. The more money we have available to us, a lot easier it's going to be. So a couple options here when it comes to, you wanting to be a builder and how you should pay yourself, with that frame of thinking. Owner salary, right? And what is a salary? Everyone thinks that, a salary means it should be a lot of money. Not really. That's not how it works. A salary is either a fixed regular payment. It's a fixed regular payment, typically paid on a monthly or bi-weekly basis. That's what a salary is, right? And so, look, you can just take, maybe it's 20 to 25% of the gross profit paid every 2 weeks, or the projected, if you're projecting, let's say $100,000. This is my example down here. If you're projecting $100,000 in yearly revenue, then maybe you're going to pay yourself 20 to 25% of that if you're a builder. Now, look, a lot of guys, obviously, I'm not a dummy. You can't live on $25,000 a year in most places, right? So, typically these people that are in this position that are really going for the building very, very quickly, they have, they're a married couple, the wife works, they have extra money, they're building this on the side. They have a full-time job, the wife has a full-time job. There's a family income. There's a foundation of the family already set in place. And they can do this fine. Maybe they pay themselves even less than $25,000 a year, just because they can do that, and they're not interested in taking any money away from this. Grant Cardone always talks about like feeding the beast. You got to feed the beast. That's going to produce. The golden goose never. What's the old investment? You never want to take. You never want to eat the golden goose. You want to eat its babies, right? You want to never kill the thing that's hatching, right? It's like so if your business is making all this money, you want to live on what it can pay you. You don't want to just take all the money away from it. Right. And so, so 20 to 25% is a good rule of thumb. You can expect to pay yourselves that. That's if you're wanting to be in this building stage, right? The second option would be maybe you're doing a salary plus an owner distribution. And this is kind of what we've set up in my business. Me and my partner, we both have salaries and we pay ourselves a distribution. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, let's look at this example right here on $100,000 forecast. Now, you'll find on all of these things that I talked about in the Rogue Warrior or in the builder stages, the math still applies at whatever number. Maybe your first month, instead of $2,000 that month, you made $5,000 or $10,000. That math still applies. Same thing here. I'm just using basic examples, but the math is still the same. Based on $100,000 forecast in a year, again, we talked about, you'll pay yourself 20 to 25,000. Now, this could be less, it could be more. Maybe it's 40,000. Although I wouldn't suggest paying yourself $40,000, or I'm sorry, 40% of your gross income there. Gross business revenue there. Or of your gross profit. I just think that's taking a little bit too much away from your business. So look, on average, you'll have a $2,000 monthly income out of that, right? That's what that math works out to. Well, quarterly distributions, how we do it is you only get a distribution, a payment, a one-time payment done quarterly, if and only if the company makes money. So if the company is doing really, really well and it's exceeded our forecast and there's just excess money in there, we pick a number and say, hey, if our account is over this number, we're going to pay ourselves the difference there. And so like with our business, we keep about 10% of our projected yearly revenue in our business checking account, no matter what. We don't like it falling below that number. And so on us doing about $1 million a year, 10% of that is 50 grand. So we keep anywhere from 40 to 50 grand in our business checking account, no matter what, right? And I highly suggest that for you guys. If you got once you guys work up to that point where you're packing away money, keep that cushion. And now I'm not trying, this video is not about financial advice, but keep that cushion in there. Okay. You want to have, 2, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or even 8 weeks of things going wrong, that you have a cushion there to an emergency fund to fund that. Maybe it's keeping employees. You don't have any work, but you want to keep these guys from leaving, going off to another job. You got to have something to pay them, right? So keep that 10% in there as a buffer there. If you're doing $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, and you don't have at least 10% in your business checking account, that's risky. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night, right? And so like we pick a number. So if every quarter our account is past 60,000 or past 70,000 in the checking account, and all of our expenses are paid for at the end of the month, we just submitted payroll, that's been taken from our account. We decided on our marketing plans for that month and our Google ad budget. We increased it or kept it the same. We paid for all that. Everything's been paid for. That involves the business, and the marketing of the business has been paid for. And at the end of the month, after all those expenditures have been paid, there is, instead of 60 in there or 50 in there, there's 70,000. There's an additional $15,000 to $20,000 in that account. We might be like, okay, look, we've done really well. The business has done really well. Everything's paid for. All the marketing's been paid for. Everything's good. We have extra money in the account, and it's the quarter. Like, let's pay ourselves. Like if when the business eats, we can eat. And so we'll take that distribution, and you can pay. You can, if you're an owner operator, you got that. You can just pay yourself the whole 20, and maybe every quarter you're getting a distribution of anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. I mean, whatever that math is. Like for us, that's kind of what it is. Every quarter, if there's extra money there and everything's been paid for, and we've done a good job at marketing, and there's extra money there, we'll pay ourselves a distribution. We'll cut ourselves the difference of that number. That number, whatever's past that number, we'll just forward it to our personal checking account. And so every single quarter, basically, we get a bonus. Now, and it's cool because like if there is no money there, because we're in the builder stage, like we are builders, we don't have to take money from the business. We will only take money from the business when there is extra money to give. If there's not any money to give, like the wintertime, like there'll be times in the winter where like, yeah, it does kind of dip below that number, that threshold that we want, because like sometimes we'll have like snowmageddon and ice-mageddon here in Texas where it just goes crazy winter storm. And yeah, no one's really asking for pressure washing services for like a 3 or 4 week period of time. And it does get kind of slow. Well, dude, if there's no money coming in, then we're not making any money. Like we're just getting our salaries, or sometimes we'll forego our salaries for a couple weeks, a payroll period or two, just to kind of keep the business, keep comfortability in the business. So that's kind of the end of my slideshow there. I put that together in like a morning, in a few hours here in the morning yesterday. But I kind of just want to give you guys a framework of just some things to think about when it comes to, paying yourself. You really want to be smart with your money, right? If you get $2,000 into your business account, guess what, guys? You didn't earn that $2,000. Your business did. You work inside of the business. If you created an LLC, that is its own entity, and that entity has its own taxes. And you are an individual in that LLC, right? And depending on what your goals are, you might say, I want to suck as much money from this LLC as possible and just get paid and pay off whatever I want, save up and pay for whatever I need, or pay off a medical debt. You name it, a wedding. Okay. Then you talk to your CPA and say, hey, this is my goals. This is my plan. I want to make sure I'm doing this in the most tax efficient way. Boom. Or you say, look, I'm a 40-year-old man and I want to create a family business for my sons or daughters. This is what I want to do. I got a full-time job. My wife works. We bring in $100,000 a year as a household, but I want to plan for us to go into a family business 5 to 10 years down the way. Beautiful. You already have an income set in place. Build this on the side and take as little from it as possible. And then as we start building and your business gets growing, grows more and more and more, in the several hundred thousands of dollars of range, you can kind of say, okay, now I can start, we have money to play with, and we can start saying, okay, look, we can pay ourselves this, or we can set up a salary like this, right? And obviously, guys, the more money you have in the business account, the more money you have, the more soldiers you have to deploy when needed. So really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are not already a part of my Service Business Pros group, I'd love to have you in there. It's $29. You get a free 7-day trial. You can cancel anytime you want. We do weekly Zoom calls, one-on-one coaching, and it's a great time. I'd love to see you in there.